Before going into the details of one of the possible enterprise resource planning system that we have seen, in particular SAP ERP, I want to give you an example of what an ERP implementation project looks like in company by using a famous case, the Nestlé case. Nestlé is a Swiss company which was founded in 1866 by a pharmacist named Henri Nestlé. Nestlé has grown with time and acquisition, and today has become the largest food company in the world. It's very, very, very famous. It has over, let's say, 200 million of employees and more than 500 factories across North America, Brazil, UK, Asia, Australia, and also in Europe is very popular. The total group consolidation sales revenue is over in US, is over. I think these are also outdated, but because this is the annual case. But at the time was over 559 billion. Today's I think it is almost 100 billion. And it is one of the best company in the world, ranked among the first 50. In particular, at the time to which we are let's say framing the case, in 2001 was the American most admired food company for the fourth consecutive year. Today's, I mean, is the leader of the market today. At that time, it was growing, but it was still in its development. As you should know, together with well-known brands, Nestlé produces, I mean, tons of products, including coffee, snack, Western chocolate, juice, pet food, prepared food, and infant food. So a very range of food, water, and so on. At the time of the project of the case we are analyzing, let's say Nestlé US was challenging very severe competition in the food and beverage market. In particular, from the chart that you can see displayed in the slides, we can see that sales revenue of Nestlé in Nestlé United States in 2001 accounted less than that of Kraft and Coagra, Unilever, General Mills, and Sara Lee, which were the competitor. As you can see, Nestlé was not the leader of the market, so we're competing against this one, and the competition was very tough. Which was the organizational chart of Nestlé at the initial year of the new millennium. There was the CEO, Joe Weller, which was also the chairman, and then his direct reporting was Jerry Dunn, the chief information officer, and other board member. In particular, there were also some subdivision like director of process change, director of information system, and vice president of supply chain, reporting directly to Jerry Dunn. It is interesting to analyze that even if it was 17 years ago, there were over 70 people that were working in the IT department, meaning under the director of the information systems. Which was the history? The history was that after the centralization carried out in 1991, Nestlé United States continued to function more like an holding company than in a single entity, where divisions still were geographically dispersed office and let's say took decision on their own. For example, it happens that each factory arranged orders for the vanilla, one of the main ingredients of Nestlé products, and one of the most raw material common used. And they ask these quantities and orders also from same vendor, but at different prices, because of course the vendor its game and just arrange condition according to each request. They didn't coordinate, they didn't contact each other before purchases, and I mean, in this way, the whole company was losing a strong purchasing powers. And more, there were 9 different general ledgers and 28 points of customer entry. So a very inefficient situation. The famous statement, Nestlé was the world's #1 food and beverage company, but one of the last efficient. So was leader instead of being was one of the leaders instead of being very inefficient. That's why in 1997, Nestlé decided to embark on an ERP project codenamed BEST, meaning Business Excellence through System Technology. The ERP module, and I mean the system were then implemented was then SAP. The ERP module implemented were supposed to cover the areas of purchasing, finance, sales and distribution, accounts payable, and accounts receivable. Let's say, together with the logistics supply chain, let's say each of these modules would have been deployed across every Nestlé division. So there would have been a customization of this module for each specific Nestlé division, but all relying on the same system. So in this way, there wouldn't be the specificity for the division which would have been carried on, but for example, the purchasing group for confection would have followed the same basic best practice and data as the purchasing group for beverage. So the process and the standard were the same. There would have been then customization of the process according to the division, but I mean the information, the data, and the structure of the process were shared among all the Nestlé division. For this project, a budget of 2 million euros was put on the table, and when it was first started, it was supposed to finish in 3 years, so to be on 100% functioning in around the new millennium. In order to build all the requirements and all the system, 50 top business executive and 10 senior IT professionals were involved. Let's say the slogan of this project was One Nestlé under SAP, so under the same enterprise resource planning system, stating the fact that with this project Nestlé wanted to transform the separate brands into one highly integrated company. Which would have relied on standardized data, efficient process, and shared best practices. Of course, the implementation was not easy. I mean, not only some workers first did not understand how to use the new system, but some of them they didn't understand how the new process were supposed to function, and the divisional executive were very confused about the situation, and they need to face employees which are, I mean, not happy of the new situation. More, the best project team seems to overlook the integration points between the model. For example, all the purchasing department now were using common process, but their system were not integrated with the financial planning or sales group. So a salesperson, if making a discount to available customer, this fact was not evident to the account receivable, and when the customer was supposed to pay, only a partial paid was made in the account receivable, because the account receivable was not aware that there would have been a discount, and it was expecting the full price payment. I mean, there were some problems that forced a review of the project characteristics, and in particular let's say they review some business requirements in order to make it softer to be accepted by the company, and let's say they start some training initiative in order to make employee more aware of how the new process was supposed to function and integrate with the old version of the activities that they were carry on. So there was some change management actions in order to, on one side, make the implementation less hard for the employees, so smoothing the requirements and, let's say, the rigidity of the new system, and on the other, there was, the investment in giving the employees more competencies and more knowledge on the new process, on the new system functioning. What we can infer from the Nestlé case, that first of all, of course, that there were some benefits after the implementation of this process, because common database and business processes standardized, of course, lead to a more likely ability to plan and to forecast the final demand, because there was a comprehensive account planning tool, all the distribution centers were aligned, so Nestlé was now able to forecast down the redistribution center level, and forecast accuracy was improved by 2%, which is very interesting for the planning and forecasting process. And also there was higher factories utilization, because there were fewer factories aligned, and there was big gains in factory utilization. And also thanks to the information sharing data and the alignment between the division, there was also a overall reduction of the inventory on the inventory level. After a full implementation, Nestlé was able to save, $371 million of dollars, just because all the divisions were aligned, and the savings were amplified during the years. So the cost of goods sold, so the cost that Nestlé was facing to produce its products was less and less during time, thanks to the implementation of this system, making evident how the company was inefficient before this initiative, which was, unique in its nature, because we are talking about 17 years ago. Now ERP is the standard, but at the time, it was a pioneer in using this type of tool. It was also a great risk, as it happens when the first during the first months, organization refuses to adapt to the new situation. So which are the lessons that we can take from the Nestlé case? Don't start a project with a deadline in mind, because there can be always delay, or don't force the project within the deadline if problems arise evidently. Completion was forecasted in the new millennium, was not exactly in the new millennium, was 1 year after, because there was the need to fix some problem like the rigidity of the system and the employees resistant to change. Then update your budget projection at regular intervals. So many things happen during this long project, and this is always not possible to stay on target during a particular year, but you should reason on the whole life cycle of the project. So revise your number and try to reason on the long term in order to understand if today you can spend more, but because then in the next year you can then save money thanks to an effective project implementation, in the case the new system. Finally, the most important thing is that ERP is not only about the software. It's not just a software. It is easy to put a new software. Just implement, automate. Yes, ERP is much more. ERP is an organizational change. The hard part of this project is making people aware that the process from now on will function in a different way, if compared to what they were before. And this is in a positive way. I mean, ERP change process in a positive way, and so people need to understand that they need to adapt to this, because also for them this will be an advantage. Of course, nobody likes process change, and particular employee when they don't know what is coming. So a good practice, and Nestlé realized this lately, is to include in the planning and in the project the people that will be then affected in third person by the change. Keep the communication lines open while the project is in the work, and measure the level of acceptance before, during, and after the rollout. Finally, remember the question of the integration point. It isn't enough to simply install a new system, but you need to make sure that they can talk to each other, and the different divisions in this case are open then to share this practice and to share information and to act like they are all part of the same process. Please note that years have passed, but Nestlé, is still up to date to technology implementation. In particular, we can see from just a recent article that Nestlé is a company that makes plenty of sweet things to automate and support the digital transformation of the organization. Of course, these changes are difficult, are cost consuming, are organizational consuming, but of course, thanks to having the up-to-date technology to support the process, Nestlé, thanks to this factor, is today the leader in the market, and is recognized as a best practice company in managing process and diffusing and spreading this kind of best practices across the whole industry.